Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to World Online Racing for Season 21. And for the final time this season, PC Tier 2 is going to be underway. My name is Max Ring, and joining alongside me once again this evening is not Corey, it's Joseph Black. How are you, Joseph, after your adventures in Tier 1 last week?
Very good. I mean, I'm recognising a few names from last time out, but I mean, well, it's very, very good to be back in the World Online Racing commentary box. I can do my best impression of Corey if you'd like, but I feel like that wouldn't be necessarily the most appropriate thing to do, especially not at the very start of the stream. But yeah, we've got Abu Dhabi here today. Of course, the title's already wrapped up, but still an opportunity for them all to advertise themselves for season 22.
Yeah, it certainly does. And of course, drivers are also squabbling for the top 10 in the standings. Because, of course, if you are top 10 in the standings, in no matter what division you are in the PC Tier 1, PC Tier 2, or Tier 3, you get a full-time driver. And, of course, if you're the champion, you make that step up. But qualifying is now just getting underway, so we'll head over trackside. And it's some interesting weather conditions on show. Look at this, Joseph. It's raining, but at the moment it's somewhat good enough for slicks, but then somewhat good enough potentially for inters as well.
Yeah, it's worth a gamble onto the slicks, I think, at this point in the session, and that's what I believe it's Luca Passer and Cameron Dowds. Indeed, it is. They've gone for that gamble onto the softs already, and so everybody else on the inters. It does look a little bit wet out there, but because it doesn't look like it's been raining for that long, it's a good opportunity, and Gabo Shontos has done the same thing as well. He's in the final sector, ready to start his lap. But I think Luca is going to be a very interesting one to watch here, and he's going to pick up all that slipstream from Cameron Dowds down the straight, as Cameron's already invalidated, and so he doesn't look that keen to let Luca through.
No, I think these two are actually just having a little bit of a squabble. We saw them heading up into turn 5, and they were side by side heading up into there as well. So I think they're just having a little bit of fun with things at the early parts of this session. And Cameron is now going to be attacking once more onto Luca Rapace. We'll stay on board with this for a little longer. Look at that for a dummy to the inside line from Cameron Dowds. If he was able to pull out of the race, there's contact. And unfortunately, Cameron loses his front wing. How's Gabor getting on? He's set to 19.4 in that first sector. And yeah, just look at that there, Joseph, going really deep into turn 5. I think it's just that little bit too slippery for those soft compounded tyres, not able to get that warm-up they need. And unfortunately for the likes of Gabor, Rapassa and Dowds, this soft tyre gamble, luckily at the early part of this session, hasn't gone their way.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just having a look at the sector split times of Valentino Labella for reference, and he was already 3/10 up in the first sector. Was the Ferrari on the Aston Martin, and it's going to be Joel Marquardt to set the first time of the session at 1:31.254. Of course, not the first driver out onto the circuit, but he is going to set the quickest time of all so far. Diego Zorzo, 31.4. Dennis Langrock, quickest of all with a 31.0. Valentino Labella can only manage a 32.0. So you can imagine the pace difference between the softs and the intermediate tyres, as Cameron Dowds appears to have parked it in a dangerous location, and he's been disqualified from the session. And well, it looks like he's just parked it on the exit of the last couple of corners, and well, he's gotten in the other driver's way seemingly, but I think he was just trying to get out of the way, and that's going to be the first driver out of the session, other than Joe Murphy, already retired. But the Mercedes is going to feel hard done by.
Yeah, he certainly will. Not going to be able to get a run on the board. Of course, Joe Murphy is retired due to him, unfortunately, having a qualifying ban. But with these conditions as well, Joseph, as we see more drivers head to line, Daniel Gottschalk now heading up to that start-finish line. He goes into second place. Lovely stuff there from the McLaren man. But with these conditions around this circuit, of course, not many drivers would even think about practicing the intermediate conditions here at Abu Dhabi, as Lucas Basner now goes top of the time. It's a stonking lap from him, 4 attempts clear. This is where we could get a really jumbled up grid, as now Luca Rapace also gets disqualified. So 2 drivers disqualified, and Luca Rapace is going to have to do a last question mark challenge, really. But it can really jumble up this grid, can't it, Joseph, with drivers potentially not being able to get up to speed and just potentially struggling with especially these somewhat mixed conditions at the moment.
Yeah, it's bit of practice at all. And you can see the drivers who are probably stronger in the wet in comparison to everyone else than they are in the dry. For example, Dennis Langrock, I know, is a big fan of the wet conditions, or at least the intermediates. He's quite good in changeable conditions, and that's why he's on that front row. Lucas Beisner alongside him. So I think he's normally one that does a little bit of intermediate practice just in case. And here it seems to have paid off. Lucas Beisner, of course, in the same esports team. Surely they've shared information and shared data, and that's why they're both on the front row. But it's the early portion of the session. Lucas, though, 5/10 ahead of Daniel Gottschalk. That's an incredible gap, and I think he might have gambled on a strong qualifying. But we'll see where everyone else stacks up towards the end of this session. They're just getting their feelers out in this first run, and well, the second runs is really where the action starts to begin.
It certainly does, and a lot of these drivers have stayed out that little bit longer. Of course, you can fuel your car up for multiple runs in this session. I think we've got one of the Alpines potentially heading through the final sector. I think that is going to be of no, it's not Pepe for sure. That's a Williams. It could be Rihard Sprogis potentially in 7th place. Yes, it is, but he's unfortunately invalidated, and I think run out of fuel as well, as he'll now elect to come into pit lane. We also have one of the V-Carbs heading through that final sector. That is going to be of Joel Marquardt, who currently lies in that 5th place, but he also elects to come into pit lane. But he was up on his lap times and potentially made a mistake in that final part of the lap. So, of course, very easy to invalidate around here, Joseph, at Abu Dhabi, the Yas Marina circuit. So it's going to be a little bit more tricky in these conditions, and so I think that's Wojtek Steg moving himself up to 5th.
Yeah, you're trying to maximise the opportunities you get around the circuit, which sometimes can feel a little bit, well, not a little bit useless, but it can certainly feel like one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar to just get right. I mean, it's very tight, very twisty, and of course, in the wets, it's going to provide you a little bit more difficulty. But yeah, at this point, it's just all about the drivers trying to get themselves sorted and to get themselves prepared for the final runs in this qualifying session, which is where the real action is going to begin. And, well, we will see who stacks up where. But at the moment, it's looking positive for the Kick Sauber team and for Dennis Langrock as well. There's yellow flags out on the circuit as drivers just getting out the way, preparing for their laps. Is there an argument to say? And of course, I'm not the regular Tier 2 commentator. I'm not sure about this one. But did something happen between Shontos, Rapasa, Dowds, or maybe just all of them separately? And maybe they had a qualifying ban?
I don't think they did, because of course Rapasa, he made it through quite cleanly through that last race. A good drive from himself at Suzuka to take that race victory. I think it's all just where they've got such little grip on those slick tyres that they've all spun, potentially got it beached somewhere, and then of course there's nothing you can do, and you get disqualified, or they've just done it on purpose to see what they can do from the back. So yeah, a bit confused on why they've elected to do that, but it could be just to see where they could climb up the field towards. Jerry Van Bussel now starting his lap. He's going to be the first driver on these second runs to get us underway. But of course, you fuel your car up for multiple laps on the intermediates. You want to try and get as much out of that tyre as you possibly can. It doesn't wear much, as it's a big snap heading through turn 3, and in the first sector, nearly up by 4/10 of a second.
Sounds like you're confused why people are having fun on a game, Max, as where they're going to be trying to qualify last, head up to first, and well, we'll see whether they're going to be able to do that. Jerry Van Bussel then heading down towards the chicane, which is going to be the main overtaking zone on this racetrack. And well, the Haas driver heading through it pretty cleanly. We'll see where the second sector split ends up for the Dutchman and the VNT driver. Of course, still intermediate conditions out on the circuit. The drivers will be hoping that it won't translate over to race day. And of course, they've got a bit more information than we have on that front. 0.3 of a second is the improvement for the Haas as there's more yellow flags. V-Carb, I think, just trying to prepare himself for his run. Hopefully, he can see behind him, and he can see Jerry Van Bussel is completing his qualifying and his actual lap on this circuit. But now we head around the final couple of corners, watching on with the Haas. Where is he going to end up in this session? He improved by 0.3 in the first few, but he's not going to be improving again, as I think he's had a bit of a slide. out of the difficult section to head through in the final sector, and that's going to be the end of Jerry Van Bussel's second qualifying lap.
It certainly is. Dennis Langrock up by 3 tenths in that middle sector. Is he going to find any in the final? Across the line he goes. Yes, he does. 2 tenths clear of Lucas Basner, who's heading through that final sector now, and he's 2 tenths up on his previous best. So let's see what Basner can do. His teammate Ranieri now goes to the top of the times. Can Basner displace his teammate for Kick Sauber? What an evening this could be for Lemus. Itana goes into third. That's Lutzer fifth. Here comes Lucas Basner. Can he restake his claim for pole position? Yes, he can, by 3 tenths of a second. You may jump high, but Lucas Basner is jumping higher as it currently stands at this midpoint of qualifying. He is really setting that statement down. And for him, he's now potentially staring at a 1 minute 29. We, of course, got more drivers heading up to the line. One of the Ferraris, that's going to be of Ryan Modler, now heading through that final sector. Of course, he's in that battle with Diego Zorzo for second in the standings. Needs to score 3 points to certainly confirm himself. Across the line he goes. He goes 7th fastest, but times are still coming in thick and fast. More drivers, of course, could potentially be aborting their laps before they go again. As Sprogis comes to the line, and he goes up to 3rd fastest.
Yeah, John Marquardt having a slide out of the final corner. He was improving significantly, but he's not going to be able to round off his lap, and he was actually improving by 8 tenths of a second. Would have been good enough for 5th place and ahead of Diego Zorzo, but unfortunately unable to complete it, and the final corner was what did it for him. Abe Gabadi in a very, very strong 4th place with a 1:30.3, and he's going to hope to hold on to that one. But Lucas Beisner's pace in this qualifying session has been unbelievable. He was 4 tenths ahead of anybody else in the first runs, 3 tenths ahead of anybody else in the second, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to be able to match him.
It certainly does not. It's been an absolutely amazing start to qualifying for Lucas Basner and for Kick Sauber overall. Ranieri was 5th after the first runs. After the second runs, he has now made it a Kick Sauber 1-2. And for Lucas Basner, he currently leads that train. Wojtek Steg, we are looking on board with on a lap time. Now just exiting out of the turn 6 and 7 chicane. Of course, what would be a DRS straight now, the National Pitch Straight. But of course, in these wet weather conditions, no DRS is enabled. He's up by half a second in that middle sector. This will put him around about that Dennis Langrock range, I think, if he's able to carry on this somewhat trend of improvement as he now heads through into that final part of the lap, down into turn 12. Just slowly bringing that power back up in these conditions. This corner here, 13 and 14, must be so difficult to get right, because even in the dries, your rear of the car is hightailing and sliding all over the road as you now head through the penultimate corner. A little wobble there as well for Wojtek Steg. Wide from the apex through the final corner as he makes his way to the line. What's this going to be? It's good enough for 3rd fastest, just slots in front and pips 3 yards Sprogis as he now goes up into that top 3, but needs to get back into the pit lane quite quickly. He's not got much time to turn this one around.
Yeah, got to be very quick, and I think we saw a couple of drivers abandon their laps just because they want to get round and with enough time to get their final laps underway. But those final laps are going to be soon, as 3 minutes 26 left in the session, and well, it's going to be a chance for everyone to see if they can beat Lucas Beisner. It's going to be a tall order with him 1:30.0 and very, very clear at the top of the field. But there is potential in laps to try and do something. Joel Marquardt was improving by 8 tenths on his first run, but of course invalidated around the penultimate corner, and so was unable to hook his lap up. And well, we'll see who's able to really make their claim for pole position here. I think there's going to be at least one driver who is going to be able to sort of offset that deficit. Maybe they don't take pole position, but they get very close to it. And, well, Jerry Van Bussel is going to be the first driver out of the pits and getting ready to go for a lap. Valentino Labella very slow in the first sector, and I think he's preparing for one more run. He feels as though he went out maybe a little bit too early, and well, in the end, he is just going to prepare himself once again. He's 9th place at the moment with a 1:30.6, and I think all the drivers coming out are just going to follow him very, very slowly. They see how slowly that Labella is going, and they're going to try and match it. He's been overtaken there by one of the V-carbs, and, well, 2 minutes 18 left on the session. Everybody's going to try and exit the pits now, and around the final corner is going to come Jerry Van Bussel. Or it's not going to be Jerry Van Bussel, in fact, coming around the final corner. It'll be Steg, who, is he going to go for another lap?
I think he is actually building to go for another lap. He's just saving that battery, the same as Valentino Labella, as these two, of course, already have been out on the circuit for quite some time, but are going to try and use as much of this tyre as they can, because of course it doesn't really wear too much. It doesn't take too much brunt over the course of a lap, and the pace stays somewhat similar. You just lose a couple hundredths of a second that each lap you do, but it's going to be Van Bussel who leads us away for these final runs, and a little bit wide through turn 1. That's going to cost him dearly, you would think, now heading up all the way through turns 2, 3 and 4. I actually think the Haas driver has aborted this run.
Yes, unfortunate then, and well, he's going to see if he can get around for one more time. But it's going to be difficult, especially with all the drivers ahead of him getting ready for their runs as well. So he's going to feel a little bit held up, and that's going to be Pasquale Ranieri in just ahead of him. And, well, he's going to try and dispatch him very quickly. There we go, and he's going to be ready for his final run. But those tyres are going to be more and more worn by the lap. So Steg is going to be, I think, he might not be losing too much time because it's the intermediate tyres, but he's still going to be losing a little bit of time. And in this sort of level where it's all so tight, that could be very, very crucial.
Yes, it certainly could be indeed. That could be the difference between him getting pole position and unfortunately just missing out. Pepe for sure starting his first run. Pepe Marti taking on a new name for this evening as we now head through turn 5. Nicely done through there, very smooth on the power, not having to really correct that car at all as we now make that run down to turn 6. Of course, these drivers as well, not only haven't they really done any wet running, they won't know where to deploy the battery in terms of their laps either, because they haven't been able to get that understanding. They've only had these couple laps to do so, and this is really where you just try and figure out that best strategy. What are we looking at in that middle sector split here for Pepe for sure? Currently on the 30.9. We'll need to find about a second if he wants to just pip Lucas Basler to that pole position. Up by 4 tenths now in that middle part of the lap. Is he going to be able to find anything more? As Basler, of course, is currently on his attempt. He's on a 30.0 as it currently stands for Pepe for sure. As he now heads through that final sector, will the Williams driver do enough to at least potentially break into that top 3?
Yes, and he's going to try and crown off his marriage with a very, very strong lap time. And, well, it's 4 tenths up in the first 2 sectors. And around the final corner, he is going to come. Is it going to be Pepe Verschoor who's going to be able to snatch a top 10 spot? It's going to be 7th place for him, so that's not too terrible, but he would have been hoping for better, and it's a good benchmark for the rest of the field to see how much time there is out on the laps. Just having a look at some of the drivers down there, and Lucas Beisner might be going into the 29s. He's not going to be the first driver to do so, as JST's up there. Riyad Sprogis going into 3rd place, and Beisner around the final corner then. Is this pole position for the Kick Sabra? Of course it is. 1:29.7, an unbelievable lap time, and he's going to snatch pole position away. Is anybody going to be able to challenge him on their lap times? You'd think Pasquale Ranieri would be the best driver to do so. Diego Zorzo up to the front row, 29.8, and Tony Hitala only just in behind him. Ranieri heading through the final sector now, and well, Dennis Langrock is going to be He's going to be going across the line in 7th place. Ranieri then, final 2 corners. He wasn't improving by much in the first 2 sectors. All the times are in, most of them in the 29s. Is Ranieri going to be able to jump onto the front rows? 3rd place before these runs. Make that 7th. A disappointing final run then, and that's going to be the end of everybody's qualifying session. And Lucas Beisner, of course, is on that pole position.
Domination from Lucas Basner there, and as I said earlier on in the session, no matter how high everybody else jumped, Lucas Basner just had that edge. And you were right, Joseph, you did say that gap would really dwindle at the end of that qualifying session. It was 4 tenths, it was 3 tenths, and then Diego Zorzo brought it all the way down to half a tenth between himself and Lucas Basler, and your grid is as follows. It's Basler from Sorso, Hitala, Gabadi, Marquardt and Esti. Brilliant qualifying for the V-Carbs. Ranieri, Lutz, Sprogis, Langrock rounding out your top 10. Labella, Van Bussel, Gottschalk, Steg for short, Modler, Shontos, and then, of course, Murphy, Rapassa and Dowds. All, of course, got disqualified, and, of course, Murphy had that qualifying ban to deal with. And looking at the conditions now into the race, dry weather. This now changes everything, and it also means that drivers who potentially might have upped their front wing slightly have that opportunity to turn it down for these dry conditions. But of course, as well, in that battle for 2nd place in the standings, Ryan Modler being that far down the order, and then of course Diego's also starting on the front row, we could potentially see the Spaniard just pip the German for that 2nd place.
Yes, he did, and well, it's a very, very Good lap, just to snatch in there at the very end for Diego Zorzo. Wasn't quite matching any of the rest of the times, and Lucas Beisner on that pole position. He is unmatchable, as Seb has said in the chat. That's why we call it Seb the Regenmeister. And I hope I pronounced that well. I reckon that was a pretty decent German pronunciation. I've worked too much with Germans over the last few weeks, of course, being part of Thomas Stenger and working quite closely with one particular driver on this field. But we're getting ready for this race day and the final race day of the World Online Racing season. And Tier 2 has taken, as with all the other tiers, to Abu Dhabi. But, well, it's going to be a great opportunity for those drivers, of course, with the championship wrapped up too. See what they can do, and the 5 lights are coming on in front of the drivers for the final time in Season 21. And the action is underway. Lucas Beisner gets off to a strong start, and he's going to lead into the first corner. Zorzo's going to come under pressure from Hitala, but he's managed to take that position away. And it's going to be 5th place for JST. Little bit of scrapping off of the circuit. Abe Gabadi and Keaton Lutt for 7th and 8th place. Lutt gets overtaken by both the Alpines, but is able to snatch back that position as they head down towards the next corner. And it's going as virtual safety car already.
Yeah, virtual safety car, and I think it involves Ryan Modler and Wojtek Steger. Modler is round, actually, at the top of the hill here at turn 3. And unfortunately for him, I think he's missing his front wing as well. So that's disastrous for the man fighting for 2nd place in the standings. And it's just got even worse. Luckily, his virtual safety car will allow him potentially, if it stays out for long enough, to hold on to the train somewhat, be able to change that front wing and try and get that undercut. If we're looking at tyres, everybody but Labella and Van Bussel have gone onto the hards, and the green flag is waving once again. And look at that, just behind Lucas Beisner. It's been a dream start on the restart here for Joel Marquardt. Around the outside, it's 3 wide into turn 9. Who's going to come out on top here? Is it going to be Zorzo, or is it going to be Hitala? Is this still 3 wide as they now head into turn 12? Marquardt backs out of it, and it's now Hitala to the inside, into the right-hander, but Zorzo swooping it right round the outside line, was just able to hold on to that position, but very aggressive racing at the start of this finale here. And of course, gloves will be off, no championship on the line. It's all down to who comes and gets this 2nd place, as Ranieri now to the inside of JST to try and get that move done through the final corner. That's actually allowed Abe Gabadi to now look to the inside line. The Williams driver has contact, and Ranieri dives it now to the inside of ST. I don't know if he's frustrated because he's got wing damage, the kickstart, but potentially from the V-carb, but drama between Ranieri and ST, nearly taking out Abe Gabadi.
Yeah, that would not have been good. Abe Gabadi, of course, in the same esports team as JST. So that would have been not just drama on the circuit, but drama off it as well. And there's still scrapping on this field. Keaton Lutt closing in on Gabadi onto the exit of the hairpin and down towards the straight and picking up DRS for the first time on the lap. Are they going to be able to make their way through? Nobody has gone for a move, and there's a bit of a slide from Gabadi, which might open up the door for Keaton Lutt on the exit. But with that corner being the way that it is, Abe Gabadi is able to sneak his way back through and, well, make up for that mistake. And Dennis Langrock now on the back of Lutt.
Yep. This, of course, all this squabbling is allowing these drivers behind just to be able to get themselves into battle-ready conditions. And Lutt has actually been really able to close up to the back of Abe Gabadi. Is he going to look to the inside into turn 12? No, but Gabadi goes deep, and now he goes really off the circuit. And this might just give Lutt that opportunity he needs to get the up and under out of turn 14. But no, just has to sit behind once more. Is he going to look for it into that final corner like we saw from Ranieri on that last tour? But no, once again, just having to stay in the wheel tracks of the Williams driver, as Lucas Beisner still leads the way. I think it's been a dream getaway so far from Lucas Beisner. He couldn't really ask for better, and the Kick Sauber is leading the way quite comfortably.
Yes, he's doing a very good job at the moment, and well, he's demonstrated his pace around Abu Dhabi in a very, very strong way. Keaton Lutt finally makes his way past Dave Gabadi. The send into the hairpin has come off for the McLaren, and it's been done so cleanly that they're able to stay within the DRS of everybody else. Tony Hitala trying to break the slipstream of Joel Marquardt, and also just trying to get those extra kilometres per hour down the main straight. I think, well, I say main straight, it's the main straight in terms of the size of it, the sheer size of the back straight around Abu Dhabi. It is the main overtaking spot. It's pretty much the main straight, and the real main straight is no more than a footnote. But they head down to the next braking zone. Joel Marquardt once again, he's trying to find an opportunity on Diego Zorzo. He's trying to find a gap through, and there isn't quite one just yet. I think he feels as though he's going to be able to attack Lucas Beisner a lot better, but he's just got to communicate that to Diego.
Yeah, I think he certainly does, but as long as these guys stay within the the Kick Sauber drivers' DRS, they're just going to be wanting to stay as they are for now. But of course, when we get closer to that pit window, which will probably be around about lap 10, I would say, for a majority of these drivers, that is when they'll want to make that attack. As now Ranieri comes into pit lane and takes a bollard with him, as we see him now put on potentially a new front nose cone. Or is this going to be an undercut attempt here from Ranieri, as he now heads down the pit lane? Is it a new front wing? No, it's not. It's just going to be a simple undercut attempt from Pasquale. Wants to get out of that train, holding him up too much, because of course it's all congesting here as well, Joseph, as he's actually retired. Potentially did want that wing change and it's not done it, but potentially this undercut could work because everyone's congesting, especially into here at turn 6. It could really help someone on those fresher tyres be able to find a few tenths of a second as each lap ticks by.
Yeah, it's all the minimal gains that you're going to be needing as Cameron Dowds makes his way past Gabriel Shontos. The drivers at the back, who I think were hoping to fight their way forward, haven't really had the opportunity to do so far. Cameron Dowds back through on Shontos, and well, there's a little bit of scrapping between those two. Dowds trying to slingshot his way out of the exits, and alongside Luca Rapace, he's done so, and he's ahead of his fellow Veloce Academy driver, and that is for P15. Of course, not the position that anybody really wants to be fighting for, but they're still fighting over it nonetheless. The last race of the season is going to be a lot more fun for drivers who don't necessarily have anything to play for, especially the likes of Rapace. He's already wrapped up that championship, and he's going to be hoping to be, well, not here next season in F2. He's going to, or Tier 2 even. He'll be hoping for Tier 1. And there's a late lunge from Joe Murphy on Pepe Verschoor. Verschoor with a slide on the exit. He's going to lose the position to Dowds, but Murphy and Dowds make their way through.
They certainly do indeed. And now this will leave Pepe Verschoor under all sorts of pressure from, of course, Luca Rapace, as Van Bussel picks up our first time penalty of the race. 3 seconds goes the way of the Haas driver, currently lying in 12th place. One of 2 drivers who started this race on the hards, and they're still stuck together. That's Labella and Jerry Van Bussel. Joe Marquardt is actually potentially going to go for an attack here onto Tony Hitala into turn 6. He's going to look to the inside line. He's going for it, but just not brave enough on the brakes to get the move done. And Zorso goes deep into turn 6, potentially caught out there by Lucas Basler, caught out by the overspeed, and this might now give Hitala the opportunity to attack and potentially be his best form of defence as we now head up into turn 9. Dowds will still able to head out, stay in front of Pepe Verschoor, or is he, as they now head down into turn 9. Pepe Verschoor to the inside line. Is he going to be able to get this move done? There's contact between the Bear and Cameron Dowds. It's gone wide, and that's also allowed Luca Rapace through. Verschoor sliding on the exit, and the Red Bull sees himself through, and here comes Santos now through into turn 12, and Pepe Verschoor just holds on.
Yeah, Verschoor is able to hold on to 16th place, and Gabriel Shontos does drop down to 17th, and Cameron Dowds ahead of them is going to be enjoying that one because there's going to be a gap created between them as into the pits then comes the Williams of Pepe Verschoor. It's not been his day. There's a few drivers who've not had the greatest end to the season, and Verschoor joins a list that is now 4 strong. Steg, Modler and Ranieri would have been hoping for better today, and Pepe Verschoor forced to come into the pits early on. And, well, I mean, it's a very difficult scenario to deal with for the Williams, but, of course, he's going to be trying to build where he can. He's not retired from the session, so fair play to him. Just having a look at the tyre compounds that every driver is on. Everyone is on the mediums that hasn't pitted already, apart from Valentino Labella and Jerry Van Bussel. They are in a very strong position, I think, as, well, the crossover is going to come soon.
It certainly is going to be indeed. And I think that pendulum will swing within the next couple laps for Labella and Van Bussel. They'll see themselves start to shoot their way up the order. But the question is that stint going that little bit longer in the first part of this race gonna aid them at all? Because of course, these drivers behind are going to get an immense undercut on them as they now head into that final sector. So they're going to need to make these moves, won't they, Joseph, to make their way up the field, get that track position before everybody comes in. As Verschoor gets 10 seconds for corner cutting, I want to say he's just completely straight line turn 6 and 7.
Yes, that's not ideal, and well, he's trying to catch back up, and he's caught back up to Wojciech Steg. And this is where a different approach is going to be taken as Keaton Lutz into the pit lane. It's where a different approach is going to be taken. He's got no pressure on him now, so he's just going to enjoy the ride and enjoy the final 22 laps of this circuit and of this season. It's not been the greatest one for Pepe Bashir, of course. Used to the heights of Formula 2 and a championship contender is his partner, but Pepe quite in the same position, or should I say now Pepe Bashir, and he's right behind Wojtek Steg, and I think they're just going to have a bit of fun at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting how the race develops for a lot of these drivers. Keaton Lutt, the first driver to come in for a legitimate pit stop, and we'll see how the McLaren stacks up against the rest of the field, as I'm sure a lot of them will be diving in after him.
Yes, it's going to be certainly how Keaton Lutt now prepares for this next stint and how well this undercut has worked in his favour. Is anybody around him going to come into pit lane? And now heading into turn 9 with Cameron Dowds. Of course, he's going to be just in front of Gabor Shontos. And it's all about now, do these guys also come in for an undercut, and how many drivers do react to Keaton Lutt? Of course, Baser, I'm expected to potentially stay out for another few laps because he's got that race lead. But Hitala comes into pit lane. This could be crucial for the battle for the race lead. Nobody else follows him in until Abe Gabadi in 6th. So the pit lane action has started. And where does Keaton Lutt come out in all of this?
See where Keaton Lutt ends up as well. I mean, we've got a number of the drivers into the pit lane. This is the pit window, and I'm watching Tony Hitala, and that will be a good marker to where Keaton is going to come out, of course. If he's able to get ahead of Keaton Lutt, that's a retirement. I think Gabor Shontos has crashed in the pit lane or on the exit of it, and that's going to be the first real safety car of the session. And, well, that's a moment where Gabor Shontos is going to want to forget. Has he had a slide out of the exit?
I think he's had a slide out of turn 2, potentially got on the curb. The car slid round on him, and he's gone straight on into the wall, and that's now brought out a safety car. And the likes of Hitala, Lutt, Gabadi, Sprogis, they're all going to be kicking themselves at this point, because this now opens up a free pit stop for Basler, Zulzo, Marquardt and co. And this is now absolutely crucial for the race. And for the likes of Hitala, he might have just seen this race victory slip through his fingers because he came in a lap too soon.
So he won't want that one at all. But we will see as to whether these drivers are going to be able to make it back from these strategies. Of course, those who haven't come in yet have an absolutely open goal, but JST is going to really struggle. And I say him specifically because he's right behind his teammate. He's right behind his teammate. Everybody else has a gap to their teammate, but JST is right behind John Marquardt. This has not worked in the V-Carb's favour, and you can see him trying to build a gap, 1.5 seconds now. And, well, Dennis Langmark is surely getting the message that he's free to overtake, but he won't want to. Everybody into the pit lane, JST included, and he's managed to build up the gap to 2 seconds. So I think he's going to get held up by about 3/10. But by the time he actually got into the pits, it was 2.6 the gap. So, I mean, JST, he might have worked this one perfectly.
Yes, he certainly might have done. I'm sorry if you just had a big cough down the mic, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a little bit under the weather, but we soldier on and we keep on cooking with this momentum. And actually, I think, have I disconnected from the game? Because Basler is just stuck in his pit box for me. Oh, no, now he's got moving. Has it all sorted itself out? Oh, there was a massive desync there in the game. I don't know if that was on the same your end, Joseph.
It was. I mean, it's just the way that F1 is. If you watch a pit stop, they don't come out of the pit straight away. They just wait ages, but then they just suddenly appear out of the box. I don't really know how it works or why it works, but that is just the way it is. And of course, these drivers will be used to that, and everybody watching hopefully will be used to that and not get panicked whenever that sort of thing happens. But lap 9 of 29, we're about a third of the way through this race. And it's all gone the way of Lucas Beisner.
It certainly has. It's honestly been an absolutely perfect performance from Beisner so far. And the best of his season so far. And, of course, this is how he would want to end off that season and kick-start the new one. Because, of course, season 22 will probably be in about a month's time. And you want to end this one on a high, even if you're not in a championship battle. Now heading into... of course, this safety car phase, he's just led the whole way, dominated qualifying, he's been dominating this race. Of course, being someone in Thomas Engert here, Joseph, is Basner very strong around Abu Dhabi, or has this been a constant improvement we've seen from the Kick Sauber driver throughout the season so far?
It's been the best performance I think Lucas Bison's put in. I think I'd argue as well it's potentially, related to the rest of the field, the best performance that anybody has put in over a single race weekend. And, well, he needs to hold on to this one if he wants his first podium of the season. And it's interesting to say that it's his first podium of the season. It's a surprise to say that it's his first race win of the season because of how he's dominated. And, well, he's just looked so incredibly strong. But we will see where Bison stacks up at the end of this race. I think it's going to be very, very high up. But is he going to be able to take away this Tier 2 win? And so it'll be his first of the season, his first podium of the season, and he'll be in a very strong position to do so. He's certainly got the pace to do it. He had the pace in qualifying in the wet, and so we thought maybe he couldn't translate it over to the dry, but he certainly has. And Bison now is eager to get going. He's already a second ahead of Diego Zorzo, and the game will be telling the Spaniard to try and catch up. Lap 10 of 29, and it's all gone the way of the Kick Sauber at the moment. Everybody else, though, it's sort of flipped and flopped. I mean, it was in the early portions of qualifying, it was, well, more the likes of Dennis Langrock and Pasquale Ranieri we were looking at. And then the second laps came in, and, well, Bison was still up there. It started to switch the attention a bit to Riyad Sprogge, Save Gabadi, the likes of them. The final runs came in, and it was Diego Zorzo who was able to steal the show just a little bit, and Lucas Beisner was, of course, able to take that pole position away. And it just feels like a very open goal for anybody to get onto that podium.
It certainly does, and for Zorzo, of course, he's battling for that second place in the standings. He won't take too many risks. I think him and Modler are coming into this evening were the only two drivers that couldn't take too many risks in terms of the race, because they're battling for that second place in the standings, and of course that's so crucial just mentally for yourself heading into the new season. Of course, they're both going to get full-time drives anyway, but it's just the fact that you are going to be best in the race. And for Zorzo, he's not raced much this season at all. He's had a few races out, and he could have been a real contender to Luca Rapassa. Of course, we've seen it in the likes of Baku. I think he also had a good result in Silverstone as well, one in Imola as too. So he's had 2 wins in the past few rounds, and he's really been someone to watch over the past few races. He's certainly been that man that's been up there. He's been consistently battling with the likes of Rapassa and co. And it's just been because he's missed so many races and he had a poor start to the season with a couple with a DNF in 11th place. He's not been in that title fight with Rapassa. So I think if we saw Zorzo on a more consistent basis, we certainly could have been talking about either last week or potentially heading into this week that the championship was still alive, and he would love to finish in that second place compared to someone who's been here all season.
Yeah, consistency is of course key, and I think that's where Diego Zorzo's lacking. Sometimes the overtakes he can make can be a little bit bold, and he's sometimes had his fair share of bad luck, but he's sometimes also brought it upon himself. Even though if you look on his Twitter, it'll be a bit of one and none of the other. But, I mean, that is what it is. Everyone is entitled to their opinions. And, of course, some of those incidents were looking a bit more racing incident than some others. But Diego is, of course, a very, very quick drive. And we hope to see him nearing the top of the standings once again next time out and next season in season 22, which is, of course, the preparations for that are starting to come underway, just like the preparations for the safety car coming in are starting, and Lucas Bison will be leading us to it. Diego Zorzo will be right in behind him, and then the 2 V-Cubs, who've worked together quite a lot this season, get the opportunity to work together again, and, well, they're 3rd and 4th, and they're going to be hoping to pick up a double podium to finish off the season for the Racing Bulls outfit. The team from Faenza will be happy, I think, to finish off the season with 2 podiums. I think they'd be happy with a 3rd and 4th at the moment, but we'll see how this one ends up going. The safety car's coming in, and Lucas Beisner, he's going to take some time to get us back to green flag racing.
Yes, he certainly is. The effective Mylander now is Lucas Beisner, and he's dominated this race so far. I've led all 11 laps, led every single part of that qualifying session. First run, second run, and third run. I think there's a front wing flying off as well in the background from somebody. Oh, there's a car nearly flipped over in the background. That's Riyad Sprogis, who has nearly flipped over, and that's Ave Gabadi, who has gone completely off the road with some contact there through the final corner. But we saw that perfectly there as we head down that main straight of Lucas Beisner with Riyad Sprogis. His car was perpendicular, to the circuit. and somehow that car has not gone over. But for Gabani, he's lost his front wing. But that is the clip of a century here in Tier 2. Just enter stage left, you see an Alpine on its front wing, but Lucas Bater's able to hold on to this lead down into turn 6. And this could be Diego Zorzo's best opportunity, either this lap or the next one, to stop Bater from building into a rhythm here, Joseph. He needs to get that move done, but unfortunately not close enough this time around into turn 9.
It'll be fair to say that, well, he was hanging there like a cow. But that's going to be Rihard's progress out of this session. And, well, the Alpine man is going to be disappointed with the way that this last race has gone, considering the promise that he had in qualifying earlier on. But it is what it is. And he, well, he can be happy with the pace it promised. And, well, as he has a look towards next season, this is one of those tracks that feels like it's almost guaranteed to be on the calendar. And so, well, he can be promised by his pace and hope that he's going to be able to replicate it next time out. Lap 13 of 29, and DRS has been enabled. Lucas Beisner has eked out a 5/10 gap over Diego Zorzo. Joel Marquardt just 2/10 off of Zorzo, and it looks like he's going to be the first driver to get an opportunity to make an overtake. He's really pushed to try and catch up to the back of the Mercedes and to try and open up an opportunity. He might not even need it down the next braking zone, as well, there's a little lunge to the inside, but he stays out of it. Dennis Langerock doing almost exactly the same thing, but making his intentions obvious earlier on that he wanted to back out. Now down the back straight once again, DRS will be open for Zorzo, for Marquardt, for JST, and all those drivers involved. And Marquardt is going to get the biggest slipstream effect off of Diego Zorzo more than anybody else, but he stays in behind, and so he's going to wait towards the next DRS straight. Is he going to make this move? Jerry Van Bussel's going to make the move, as I believe Tony Hitala has had a little bit of a desync moment, and he's now inside Daniel Gottschalk as they head onto the exit, onto turn at number 7, and they remain inside each other. And in the end, Hitala gets quite literally through on Gottschalk.
He certainly does, and I think there is a little bit of desync in this lobby. Of course, we saw it earlier on where Bader was stuck in the pit lane for half the lap, well, for the whole of the first sector compared to everybody else, and teleported to the circuit. So I think that was the same again there for Tony Hitala. But look at that, thanks to all that squabbling behind, Lucas Bader has been able to eke out a 7/10 advantage there. To the inside was one of the Red Bulls. That's Rapassa now to the inside of Daniel Gottschalk. Is he going to be able to get this move done to the inside of the McLaren? He's finally fought his way up into the top 10 as he's looking around the outside, nearly into the back of Tony Hitala there, and that was really close between the Red Bull and the Aston Martin, but the Dutchman's got the grip between his teeth. He's now flying his way up through the order, and he's now going to try and get past the Aston Martin, potentially into turn 5. No, he's not, because Hitala's attacking Van Bussel into turn 5. That was a late braking lunge to the inside from Tony Hitala, and they're both seeing themselves off the road. Hitala has had to go all the way off, and that's allowed Luca Rapassa an easy move down the back straight, and he's just going to be able to sit in front for now. Or is Hitala going to go back to the inside line and send it once more to the inside of the Red Bull? The two McLarens coming to blows as well, but a Dutchman holding on against Hitala for now. He's been forced off once again. The Aston Martin can't seem to be able to keep it on the road in these battles because he just keeps seeming to be forced off. And here comes Keedon Lutt, maybe round the outside of the pair of them. What a move this could be from Keedon. The Estonian tries to throw it round the outside line. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? Yes, he is. A spectacular 2-for-1 move from Keedon Lutt, and that's how you move yourself up into 7th.
If you no longer go for a gap that exists, you are no longer a racing driver. Rapassa finding a gap around the difficult section of the 3rd sector, and he gets through into 8th place. Hitala drops down to 9th, and this battle will continue on towards the end of this race, I would imagine, at least towards the next few laps. And they are so incredibly tight together on the circuit because of all the fighting they've done. Fastest lap of the race goes to Pepe Verschoor in the Atlassian Williams racing car. He's currently down in 15th place and pretty much out of sync with everybody else, but it's good to know that everybody still has the pace to keep with the main group. Dennis Langerock looking like he's going to shape up a move on JST soon. JST looking himself like he's going to try and go for one on Joel Marquardt. But we'll see down the next straight. Surely we can't have a DRS zone with no overtakes. We don't see that at all on F125. Never, ever, ever. But it looks like this time, well, there's a first time for everything. And, well, no, never mind. There's a late braking move from, I believe that's going to be Jerry Van Bussel through on Langerock. And that's going to be Joe Murphy and Cameron Dowds coming to blows as well into the zone. And it's going to be Van Bussel who comes out on top against the German. And it's going to be Cameron Dowds who drops down behind Joe Murphy. But still, a couple of moves out of that straight, and it's where the DRS really comes into effect. It really benefits the attacking, the fighting, and the aggressive drivers. It comes out to blows for them every single time.
It certainly does, and Langrock there was really punted by Van Bussel through turn 6. We saw that on board with the Alpine. He was just absolutely forced completely wide and just was clobbered into by the Haas on these inside there. But of course, these guys will still keep racing on. And for Lucas Beister, he's still got that 7th, now 8th, 10th advantage. There is no stopping the German so far. He's going to try and hold on to this one as much as he possibly can. Is there going to be a move at any point into turn 5? We could actually see one here from Valentino Labella onto Cameron Dowds into turn 5. Is he going to pull out to the inside line very late? No, he'll just sit behind once again. But for the drivers at the front of the field, they are staying as they are for now. And for Langrock, he's just not close enough for that move on Van Bussel. He's not able to get revenge just yet, but a little bit further back, there's Rapassa around the outside of Lutt. Is he going to be able to get that move done? As we now head up into turn 7, he's going to force Lutt wide, and Rapassa with the superior traction sees himself through.
Yeah, Rapassa getting through. It feels like he's got superior traction on pretty much anybody on this circuit. He's very, very strong, but Lutt's going to come back around the outside. Is he going to be able to squeeze his way through? No, not quite. And that does open the door for Hitala, but Lutt gets superior traction on the exit and is able to get the run alongside Rapassa, who's going to be later on the brakes. Rapassa for now, but he allows just 2 wheels for Keenan Lutt. There's a little bit of wheel banging. It's going to be right front and left rear that sees Luca Rapassa come through and finally seal the position. Again, a little bit of wheel banging, but Rapassa gets it done, and Lutt backs out knowing that if Rapassa loses DRS to Langrock, that's going to be the end of their battles further up.
Yes, it certainly is going to be the loss of their battles. They need to keep within that DRS range of the Alpine, because they're not going to be able to make their way up throughout the field. Of course, we've nearly entering those final 10 laps as well, so it really is starting to become crunch time in this race, especially if you're someone a little bit further back. You need to start making those moves now, so you're in a good enough position for those final 5 that will be coming our way. So as we head down that back straight once more, actually might see Tony Hitala draw alongside Keaton Lutt under braking as we head into turn 6. Is he going to get close enough, the Aston Martin? No, he is not. No one go for a move, but Valentino Labella to the inside of Dowds. Dowds being able to hold on once again through 7. Labella forced wide, and this has actually invited Ryan Modler now to the fray. And I think as things currently stand, Diego Souza will take that 2nd place in the standings. I'm not too sure as we now head through the left-hander of course, turn 9. There's 3 cars off in the background. It's Labella, Modler, and Gabani all off as we look back there from Cameron Downs. They're all just sliding up across the road, and Gabani comes out the worst of the lot, and he goes 17th place with Wojtek Steg, who's actually it splits the 2 Ferraris, as he was already far off the pack from his pit stop underneath that safety car, which dropped him too far away.
Yeah, and through all of that scrapping as well, there was still more for Hitala and Keaton Lutt to do. They've certainly kept each other busy throughout this portion of the race. And again, I'd expect it to happen towards the end of it as well. 18 of 29. We've got 12 laps to go. And these drivers are going to be in a very good position. Abe Gabadi is going to be in a very bad position. He's going to be out of the race, unfortunate then, for the Williams, whose pace promised so much more. But of course, pace does not necessarily translate to results, especially if luck is not on your side. It's on your side, and that's not what has come up for Abe Gabadi here today. But yeah, yellow flags, of course, with Gabadi coming out of the pit lane. And he is going to be the 4th retirement of this one. Ryan Modler and Wojtek Steg were significantly off the packs earlier on. They were able to make their way back in with that safety car as Cameron Dowd makes his way through on Pepe Verschoor, and he's going to be up into 12th place. A strong move then, and one that he's going to be very happy about, as it allows him the opportunity to attack Joe Murphy. A late lunge, and these two rekindling their rivalry from the console days. Cameron Dowd still chasing on the back of Joe Murphy, but not able to get it done quite yet. But these two will continue to fight. They know each other very well, of course, as I mentioned, from the console days, and they've fought very hard on a number of occasions for a number of different titles. Lap number 19 of 29 now. We've got just the 11 laps to go, of course, counting that final one as well. And, well, all top 13 drivers still within the DRS. It's a very strong performance.
It certainly is. It's been a very action-packed race as well. Of course, with this battle we're seeing between both Dowds and Murphy, it's the PlayStation versus Xbox rivalry now brought over to PC. And for the Scot, he's going to try and get by, but that is actually Pepe for sure, darting it to the inside line, just tucking himself up in front of Cameron Dowds. But now with a drag race out of turn 5, the Mercedes driver might just be able to see himself come back out in front. I did the maths on the Diego Zorzo Modeler Championship proceedings, and at the moment, Modeler still has it. Zorzo needs to win this race if he wants to take second in the driver's standings. And for Cameron Dowds, he's just having to sit behind Pepe for sure. That was a beautiful move from the Williams driver just to slide himself up into that 12th place, and he's now going to be staring at the back of Joe Murphy just like we saw Dowds do only a lap ago.
Yes, and he's in a very good position. He's been very aggressive so far this race to be able to make the move, and well, he's certainly got the drive to do it at the very least. He's certainly got the motivation to try and get past into 11th place, despite the fact that he's got that 3-second time penalty, and that's going to be very unfortunate, but he does not care about that one. It's all about the pride in this final race of the season, and Jared Van Bussel is the same. Cameron Dowds is into the pits, and well, I'm not sure what the Mercedes is going to come in for. Has he got a front wing change on hand? I'm not quite sure. We'll see as he enters his pit box. Is it a front wing change? No, it's not. This is a legitimate pit stop onto another set of the hards.
Are we potentially seeing a two-stop strategy in this race here from some of the drivers? That is going to be the big question here. Now, is the two-stop strategy the one that could potentially win you this race and be the favourable strategy on the cards? It all depends if everybody else now comes into pit lane. So for Cameron Dowds, as he makes his way out onto the circuit, let's see how this strategy does favour him. No one getting that move done. Into turn 6, back at the front of the field, Joel Marquardt still sitting nice and happily in that third place behind Diego Zorzo, but I think he'll want to get by that Spaniard quite quickly. He's got a little bit wide through turn 9, and this could be Marquardt's opportunity, but no, just not going to be able to get the drive off the corner. But for Diego Zorzo, if he wants second in the standings, he's going to need to try and take that race win away from Lucas Baesner.
I will tell you something. I will say the two-stop strategy is possible, and it is certainly not out of the question that it's going to be possible in this race. I mean, these drivers are, of course, they will have trained. I've trained with a couple of them. I know exactly what they're going to be doing. And, well, I know exactly what they could do within reason is a more specific way to put it. And a two-stop strategy is viable. Hitala and Lutt have gone for it. And, well, what it is it's a strategy where you really have to trust yourself. You have to trust that you are quick enough to be able to pull it off, that you are able to make the overtake stick. And, well, clearly, these drivers who have come into the pit lane, those three who have dived in, they clearly trust their abilities. They clearly trust the circuit and the drivers around them to be able to overtake. And they think that they're going to be able to get up into the higher positions. So it's a gamble, but it's one that can pay significant dividends.
It certainly could do. So we're going to have to wait and see who comes out on top. Will it be the two-stop, or will it be that one-stop strategy as Joe Murphy picks up 10 seconds for corner cutting? I don't know if he did the same as what we saw Pepe Fajor do earlier on, as Daniel Gottschalk talking about Pepe Fajor, I think was just in a little squabble with him. It's actually Fajor's going really slowly down that back straight. So I don't know if there was actually contact between him and Joe Murphy, and that may be causing the Red Bull going straight on across the road. But the thing is here now, I feel like they've left this two-stop a little late here, Joseph, knowing the fact we've got, what, now just when we cross the line, a total of 7 laps to go. And it's just going to be very difficult to be able to pull that strategy off with such little laps and having to try and hunt down 10 seconds to 12th place alone.
Well, that's why I was wondering as to why they came in. And, I mean, it was certainly an interesting strategy to go for. It's not necessarily a bad one, especially when you're further down the field like Cameron Dowds was. When Hitala and Lutt, though, are slightly further up, that is where the surprise comes in. But the fastest lap for Cameron Dowds, who's at the back of that fight, demonstrates to you what the pace is at this point in the race. You have to have faith in not only your ability to be quick, but also your ability to overtake, which on this game is, well, few and far between, the overtakes, and that is why none of the other drivers have decided to go for it. It's because they don't have the confidence in the game or themselves to be able to make the overtake stick. And, well, we'll see as to whether those 3 drivers, who are generally drivers who will take a gamble, don't get me wrong, we'll see how close those drivers get to the back of everybody else. They are 8.9 now. Tony Hitala is behind Valentino Labella. That means that they're about 15 seconds off of the pack. So I think it was an ill-decided gamble, but I think it was a gamble nonetheless. I think they've just waited a little bit too long to come into the pit lane, as you say, and I think a couple of laps before that would have been a great strategy.
Entirely, it would have been a very good strategy indeed. They just left it a couple of laps too late. They're not giving themselves that breathing room, and to be able to go to the end and be able to make these positions when they count. Because yes, they may have that superior tyre deficit, but of course everybody's stuck in a DRS train, so you're not going to find any time down the straights because everybody's going to be in that DRS. You're going to have to focus on the corners, and by that time it's too late, because by the time they catch up to the back of the Ferraris, it'll probably be about lap 27, lap 28. So they've really shot themselves in the foot. I think they were expecting a bigger deficit, a bigger time gain than what they've got now. But unfortunately for the likes of Hitala, Lutt and Dowds, they've just gone for that strategy. It's not worked their way. And they're going to see themselves, unfortunately, finish this season without any points on the board. But for Diego Zorzo, he's currently still trying to hunt down Lucas Basler, who's driven this race so perfectly up in the front of the field, dominated qualifying, is now dominating the race. And we might see a Lightster flag from the Kick Sauber as Labella now picks up a 3-second time penalty, costly for him.
Yeah, I think everybody is just kind of running over the curbing a little bit. I think Labella, though, went for the other extreme and went a little bit wide on the exit of the corner as Joaquin Lutt and Tony Hitala have swapped, of course, with that DRS. Cameron Dowd still hanging with them, trying to conserve himself, I think, towards the end of this race. 4.7 is the gap between himself and Valentino Labella, who, of course, did not have the most representative lap time in the world, but it's a pretty good indication of the pace that Hitala has, and I think they're going to be catching up on lap 26. Luca Rapace throwing JST on the small burst of DRS that you get down the main straight, not even DRS, in fact, down the main straight, and that is a very, very good overtake there from Rapace, pushing as much as he can. Valentino Labella has dived into the pit lane, so Hitala and Dowds and Lutt, there we go, they've got one overtake, even if it's not necessarily the one they would have wanted.
No, it is not, unfortunately, the one that they would have wanted, as Rapace is now potentially staring at a top 3 finish if he's able to get past Jerry Van Bussel quite soon. But JST will want to fight this one back and take that position back away from the Red Bull man. No, just not close enough to do so. As we hit the brakes hard into turn 6. It's also really started to become racy behind Lucas Basler. He's brought that gap down quite substantially over the past few laps. Is he going to go for that move? No, he is not. But Joe Murphy could be going for one, potentially on Dennis Langrock. And again, just not going to be close enough just yet. And this is the problem that the likes of Lutt, Hitala and Dowds are going to face, is that, yes, you may have that superior grip through the corners, but it's really through that final sector where you'll reap the rewards. And then that's still a very narrow final sector indeed, and you're not going to really be able to make any positions up. So it's all just that devil's advocate. It swings and roundabouts, and for Keegan, Lutt and Hitala, they need to absolutely fly up to this package, probably pray for some punctures to happen over the course of the final couple laps.
Which, of course, is a possibility. I mean, the puncture region has been extended on this game, or actually decreased, but extended in terms of how often that they are going to happen. So it's not out of the question that there will be something along the lines of punches on the last lap, but we have seen previously on some other tiers in some other circuits. I remember in console tier 1 a driver getting 2 tyres up to 100% and having no puncture at all. So you're going to have to get very lucky, I think, to get that one again. But these drivers on the circuit, as it stands, will be desperately hoping that sort of thing doesn't happen. Keegan Lutt 2.7 now behind Ryan Modler, and is closing in. He is very much closing in on the back of the pack, but I don't think he's going to be able to catch up in timely fashion. And there's not long left to go in the race, and there's still not within DRS.
No, he certainly is not, as they make that switch once again at the back of the field. So it's going to be too little, too late from Hitala, Lutt and Dowds. Because even once they get past Ryan Modler, there's still 4 seconds to even catch up to the first driver in the points, being Pepe Fischer on the road. So they've got no chance of trying to claw this one back, as we're about to start 4 laps to go. in this Grand Prix. And now everything for second in the standing hangs in the balance of Diego Zorzo. Modeler won't be able to pick up those 3 points that he duly needs, because of course Zorzo will win it on countback if he takes this race victory. So it all does come down to this as we head through turn 3 with Joe Murphy as he's trying to play an attack onto Dennis Langrock. Diego Zorzo's dropped a bit of time to Lucas Beister over the course of the past few laps. That's going to be Modeler's saving grace, is potentially Lucas Beister holding on to this position, and the pressure will now be mounting onto the Spaniard to get this move done, but he's got to play his cards right and really buy these times for that final lap.
Yes, it's going to come all down to the final lap for him to see whether he's going to be able to make the overtake on the man that's dominated this entire race. And, well, what a position Lucas Beister finds himself in. Can take one of the most dominant victories in Tier 2 history and probably in World War 9 racing history as well. He's not tried to extend the gap. He's not even bothered. All he's done is saved himself for the final lap. And, well, he's just going to try and go flat out right to the end, whereas all the other drivers have pushed a little bit to try and catch up to him. And Diego Zorzo is in the prime position to attack him. Jerry Van Bussel is outside of the DRS range, and Joel Marquardt is only just inside of it. Here we go then. The final lap of the season is underway. Lucas Beister is going to lead us onto it, and Diego Zorzo chases him through. Joel Marquardt is in third place as Jerry Van Bussel dives into the pits. He was scared of that puncher, I think, that we mentioned earlier on, and Van Bussel dives in, and he's not going to be able to take that podium place away, so Joel Marquardt sits in it. Luca Rapassa is in fourth, and it's going to come down to, I think, the next 2 DRS zones. Beister leads Zorzo, leads Marquardt.
He certainly does, as we now exit out of turn 5. Of course, Zorzo just going to be holding back for now, but that now has given Marquardt that breathing space over the course of the next 3 laps to Luca Rapassa. Just needs to hold on to that gap and try to extend with this DRS he does have, as we see Beister flick through the right-hander of turn 9. Van Bussel onto a set of the softs. So does this show that those hard compound tyres are certainly into puncture territory for most of these drivers, or was it just to try and end this season on a high? I'll quickly run you through your penalty count before we start the final 2 laps of this race. It's 10 seconds for Murphy and for Shaw, 3 seconds for Wojtek Steg and Jerry Van Bussel. So that is the penalty count at the moment. But as Beister leads us onto that penultimate lap, he's still holding on rather nicely at the front of this field. Fastest lap is currently going to Keaton Lutt. And for Lucas Beister, he's still doing a perfect job out in front. But for Luca Rapassa, he's brought that gap down to just under a second. You still can't rule him out of a potential podium or second place.
No, of course you can't. And Luca Rapassa, very strong position at the moment. He's managed to make his way back into the DRS, so he's got the momentum on this circuit to see what he can do. And, well, Joel Marquardt in that third place at the moment. I think he's going to have to think about Luca Rapassa a bit more than he would want to. JST and Dennis Langrock chasing him through as well. But I think there's too big of a gap for Rapassa to come under threat any time soon from those drivers. As Zorzo's through on Beister with that DRS. Diego Zorzo snatches the position off of him even, and Beister is going to try and fight back. This is the first time that he's lost the race lead or the qualifying lead. He has led every single lap, including the qualifying laps, across the course of this evening, so he's now becoming the chaser rather than the chased.
Certainly is, and that dirty air through the final sector may now start to affect him as well. He's not had any of that running all evening long, so that could be where Zorzo has played his cards perfectly. Of course, if Zorzo does take this race victory, he will be the man who takes that second place in the driver's standings away from Ryan Modeler, as we're about to start that final tour of the season. This now all hangs in the balance for second place in the standings. It may not be the outright driver's title, but it all comes down to trying to be best of the rest as we now head into turn 1. Lucas Beister trying his best to keep with Zorzo, who had a little wobble out of that first corner as we head through turn 3 now. Turn 5 could be an overtaking opportunity if he was close enough, but he's just going to be a little bit too far back for now. Marquardt's going to have a perfect view of all of this as we now head through turn 5. It's all about this exit here for Lucas Beister. Beisner, who's going to win the final race of the season here in season 21 under the lights here in Abu Dhabi. Beisner is going to use the slipstream, the DRS, everything he possibly can to potentially go for this move into turn 6. Is he going to look for it? No, he's just going to sit behind. 4 now needs a good run, but goes deep through the left-hander. And this might now just give Zorzo the edge he needs for that race victory and taking that second place in the standings. Dennis Langrock's gone straight on at the chicane. Joe Murphy's gone straight on at the chicane. Langrock falls down the order. Beisner, is he close enough? No, he is not. And surely Diego Zorzo has that second place in the standings written in the stars and that final race victory of the season as well.
Yes, we'll see whether he does. I think he's managed to take the opportunity as something's happened to Joe Murphy, and he has run off the circuit at a very, very crucial time. Diego Zorzo then and Lucas Beisner will follow each other through for the final couple of corners of this season, but it's going to be Zorzo who is going to come out on top. He's had such a difficult season. He's had so many ups and downs, but he's victorious in the final round of Tier 2. Lucas Beisner, who dominated the race, just about slipped at the crucial time and allowed Zorzo through, hoping that he was going to be able to get back, and he could not do so. Mark Ward takes that final podium position. Your champion, Luca Rapassa, is in P4, and JST is in 5th. Dennis Langrock and Daniel Gottschalk in 6th and 7th, and then Dowd, Hitala and Lutt rounding out the top 10. Joe Murphy dropping all the way to 14th in the end, so not sure what happened to the Red Bull, but something maybe technical. But that's going to be the end of the season, and well, Diego's also snatched that one right at the end.
He snatched the race right at the death, and at the death of the season as well. He has snatched that second place away from Ryan Modler. And the German driver has to settle for third as the Spaniard takes second. And that is exactly what Diego Zorzo would have wanted. He timed that to absolute perfection on that second lap. I think he may have caught Beisner by surprise. I think Beisner was expecting him to go all the way to the end and that final lap to go for the move, but he got past one lap early. And of course, with Beisner not having that experience in the dirty air so far this evening, I think it really did give Zorzo that upper hand to hold on to that one. So your Abu Dhabi Grand Prix results are as follows. It's Zorzo from Beisner, Mark 1 in third, a brilliant result from him. A good result for Luca Rapassa as well, your champion of season 21. He, of course, started 19th, finished 4th. JSD 5th, Langrock 6th, 7th is Gottschalk, arguably one of his best results of the season. Dow's from 20th to 8th. Hitala, Lutt on that alternate strategy just didn't work. They finished 9th and 10th. Then Modler, Steg, Murphy, for sure, Van Bussel, Labella, Gabadi, Sprogis, Santos and Ranieri did not finish the race. But that was a very eventful Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We'll head back over to our camera screen now. And, of course, for Diego Zorzo there, did everything he needed to do, and he reaps the reward of second in the standings.
He certainly did, and, well, a very good performance. He was very, very patient towards the end of the race, and I think that's why it looked like Lucas might have let it slip from his fingers, just because Diego just didn't concern himself with making the overtake until the very final lap.
Yeah, I think it was also down to the tyres as well. I see Joe Murphy was on 90% by the end, and I think Zorzo was also struggling with his tyres, and he actually saved them for that final lap. So it was really strategically worked out there from Zorzo to save those tyres throughout the stint, go one lap early, and then just use everything he could over the course of those final few laps to see himself absolutely bolt away and not allow Lucas Beisner to get close enough for that move, and that he did. And yeah, he was really able to reap that reward. And heading into next season, of course, him and Modler will get full-time drives in Tier 2. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Luca Rapassa. And yeah, it's just going to be an interesting season. It was an interesting finale, and hopefully with a bit more of a title fight on our hands. And talking about Diego Zorzo here, Joseph, we've got him in the interview room. Shall we bring him in?
Of course we shall, and we'll get the opportunity to speak to, well, the man who was able to pick up second place in the championship, pick up first place in this race. Diego, do you want to just talk to me about your Abu Dhabi Grand Prix from your perspective?
Hello. Well, quali was surprising because I was never fast in the rain, and somehow it rained and I did good. So happy about that. then the race was just pure management. I was consistently 8 tenths behind Lucas on purpose, and yeah, we were just sort of working together to benefit from no attacks behind basically. And yeah, I with the safety car it sort of fucked my strat because I was gonna do a one stop, people were gonna do a two stop, but still I managed to save the tires a lot and it paid off.
Yeah, it was a very good strategy from you there, Diego's also. Was it always the plan once that safety car came in just to save and then go on the penultimate lap, or is it something you thought of mid-race?
About overtake? About what? Sorry?
About overtaking on the penultimate lap, was that something you thought of on the spot, or once you came into pit lane?
I started thinking about it like um, 10 laps before the end, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep saving and I'll try to overtake the last few laps. And then 3 laps to the end, I tried to get close and it was a bit difficult. So I was like, oh, but yeah, I just secured it in the second last lap because I didn't want to leave it to the last lap, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that is totally understandable. I mean, of course, looking at the way that race went, that was very well managed. And of course, you've not had the greatest of luck across the course of the season. But, I mean, looking towards next year, do you think this is your title?
I hope so. Like, I will sign up just to win it. Like, for sure. I finished P2 this season and I missed 3 races. Another 3 I lost 25 points each. So yeah, I'll do my best next season. Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, how does it feel clinching that second place at the Def? Of course, as you just mentioned, of course, you've lost points throughout this season due to some of them not being any faults of your own because you just haven't been able to be here. But how does it feel to be able to, even with the season you've had, take that second place and potentially just move on to bigger and better things next season?
Well, pretty satisfying. Like, I wouldn't have thought when I missed 3 races in a row to finish in P2. Like, I think I was the first 5 races I didn't get even a point. So yeah, it was a good run of the last, I think, 5 races. It was the last 5 races, and yeah, before today I just thought, okay, I'm gonna finish P3. I'll try to, because Ryan was 21 points ahead, but he something happened to him today, and I just managed to overtake him.
And well, congratulations on the way that your season's gone, and hopefully we'll be seeing you on that champion spot next year.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Diego. Well, that is going to be all from Diego. It doesn't seem like we're going to get any of the other drivers in, does it, Joseph Baisner or Marquardt? So I think that is going to be all from us here this season. It's been an absolutely magnificent one, and we've had, of course, Luca Rapassa absolutely dominate the championship standings. But in that race, it was all about Diego Zorzo taking that second place in the standings at the Def and capitalising on Ryan Modler's misfortunes.
It certainly was, and well, it was a great opportunity for those drivers right at the very end to just pick something up. And well, in the end, I think it was a very well managed race from everybody else. Unfortunately, some of the strategies just didn't work in conjunction with the others, and of course, that safety car was so crucial in well, I think throwing a lot of things into the mix.
Yeah, it certainly was. It certainly did throw things up in the air, and it kind of, in a sense, ruined our strategy race we were going to have, because, of course, we had Hitala come in early, and we had a few others as well, the likes of Luck come in that lap a couple laps earlier as well, so we could have seen where they rolled out in relation. But that safety car from Gabor Shontos, that unfortunate incident from him, really did cost us that battle we could have saw, and we could have even saw Zorzo go a lap earlier than Baisner and be able to get by that way. But, of course, we'll have to wait until next season for more racing action on that front. But I think overall, especially at the front of the race, it was a very clean, very solid one. A little bit further back, it was a little bit argy-bargy and potentially overstepping the line from some of the drivers. But overall, I think it was a very good race and certainly an action-packed one to end off the season.
It very much was, and well, hopefully, if we get any more races like that next season, then we'll be in a very, very good position. And well, tier two even is going to look in a very, very strong place, and we should get the opportunity, hopefully, to watch along with it and have great fun. Of course, Corey's likely to be back for the next season, and it'll be one to watch, I'm sure, with Luca Rapassa potentially going to tier one. We could be seeing the title battle blown wide open.
We certainly could. Will it be Zorzo, second place of the standings? Will it be Modler? Could somebody else join the fray, like a Lucas Baisner after a good result here this evening? It is all going to come down to that. Who is able to keep that consistency throughout season 22 in just over a month's time? But I think that is going to be all for this evening here, Joseph. All for the season. Is there any last words before we round it up?
Well, of course, thank you very much to everybody who has contested this season. I mean, it's not been the greatest or the easiest attendance-wise, or people getting ill. Of course, you're a little bit under the weather today, but it's not been the greatest season in terms of the racing action that we've been able to have across all the tiers. But so everybody who's just stuck around, well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all for sticking around this season, and once again, apologies if you heard any slight coughing throughout the stream. A little bit under the weather myself, but yeah, it's gonna be an amazing season 22. So make sure you join us for that one. Rapassa was your champion here in season 21. Who will follow in his footsteps? Of course, thank you to the drivers for an amazing season. Thank you for you guys at home for also joining us. And thank you to everybody that has stepped into the comms box through every tier, and especially here in tier 2, the likes of me, Alex, Joseph, and Corey, who have all made this possible. So you guys at home can tune into the action and see Rapassa domination for a majority of the season. But thank you all very much for watching. It has been a pleasure. Make sure you check out our socials, Twitter, join the Discord, look at our YouTube, well, subscribe to the YouTube as well, but make sure you keep up to date with our Twitter. That's where you'll find out all the news regarding season 22. Same with the Discord as well. So make sure you join us back in a month's time to see who will come out on top in season 22. Thank you all very much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and goodbye.